Hello there, welcome back to Zero Production Value Movie Reviews. My name is Hoernke, and today I'm going to be discussing the 2018 film Destroyer, directed by Karyn Kusama. So this is a film from 2018 that it generated a little buzz at the time, I thought, but when, mainly for Nicole Kidman's performance in it, but then when awards season rolled around, didn't really land on any lists, best of lists, best of the year lists, Oscar short lists, and therefore it kind of fell off the radar. I don't exactly know why that happened, because this is actually a pretty good movie. Like I said, it's a underrated, little seen neo-noir thriller from a sort of modern hard-boiled detective drama. It stars a very haggard-looking Nicole Kidman, who gives one of those transformative performances that I would say reminds me of something like Charlize Theron in the movie Monster, where the star really sort of uglies themselves up in order to basically disguise being a beautiful actor or actress in order to gain, let's say, more critical acclaim. Like, they really immerse themselves in this role, and by looking more haggard or more ugly or succumbing to the demands of the role, somehow that lends the role more credibility. So Kidman stars as LAPD detective Erin Bell. She is abrasive, unkempt, unruly, isn't really liked, trusted, or thought of very highly by her colleagues. They're like wary of her. I don't know if it's dislike or disrespect, but I think how she's treated herself and others over probably many years has caused her to become this sort of outcast persona. She has a daughter who, you can tell that there's love there, but it's been lost and clouded throughout the years. The daughter barely speaks to her, and they have this sort of relationship where as soon as they try to speak to one another, it just sort of devolves into shouting and nothing really gets accomplished. One thing, though, Erin's appearance, for all her abrasive and raggedness, sort of harbors this inner resolve, and that's pretty much a hallmark of these hard-boiled detective stories, that these detectives are, to some degree, loners and are on a mission of truth and justice, essentially. But also that mission of truth and justice tends to be self-destructive. So when we find her, when we first meet her, she's sort of butting into this murder investigation. Her colleagues don't want her there. We kind of wonder why she's there. And she cryptically says, investigating the death of some random guy, and she seems to know who has done it. And it seems that she thinks this person known as Silas is back, and we come to find out pretty quickly that this Silas was a sort of drug lord, cultist, cult leader, murderer. And back in the day, we get this story told in two timelines. We have the current timeline where Erin's the haggard-looking older detective that she's become, jaded and, following some inner, some inner like mission to accomplish. And then we flash back. I really don't know how many years it is, but it seems like it's been quite a few years. It's got to be at least as old as the daughter, because she didn't have the daughter in the previous timeline. The daughter's like around that 15, 16 year, so it's about probably anywhere from 15 to 20 years back, which is probably part of the reason for the transformation that she goes through from then to modern. Because back in the day, she looked, fresh as a daisy, beautiful and just full of vim and vigor, ready to go. And at the time, she is put on a deep cover task force along with this federal agent named Chris, who is played by Sebastian Stan of Winter Soldier fame in the MCU. So they go out and they embed themselves in this crazy cult leader's family. It's very like reminiscent of a Manson family sort of vibe, where they're out there on this compound and they share everything from to drugs to lovers to weapons, and it's all wrapped up in this enigma that is this Silas, that he has some sort of almost innate power over his people, and he spews this rhetoric of like religious hippie drug stuff, and that gets these people sort of enamored with him, and he has a natural charisma, and they just sort of follow him. In any case, that all leads to this bank robbery, and then also the historical timeline, they go through that, and it leads to this bank robbery that occurs. And then through the modern timeline, we see Erin on this. She thinks Silas, who apparently had gone into hiding, she thinks he has returned, and she's looking up all these old people that she knew back in the day when she was embedded with this cult leader, and we kind of don't know how things happened. So back in the day, she's in deep cover with this Chris guy. In the modern timeline, Chris is no longer around. We can obviously tell Silas is missing, and some of these people are jailed, dead, or hospitalized, and she's running around rattling cages, burning bridges left and right. That whole, like I said, hard-boiled detective, self-destructive, mission-based quest that she's going on. And both of these timelines pretty much are operated in parallel, and both come to sort of climactic conclusions at kind of relatively the same point, which then allows you to go, okay, that's actually what happened back then, and that's how that feeds into what's happening now. And then, as a kind of a little bonus, they could have just ended it as sort of a normal, but then they sort of do a little bit of a twist. It's not like a jaw-dropping twist ending where you're like, oh my god, Einhorn is a man, that kind of thing. But it's a good enough twist that it has you rethinking like the entire timeline of what you just saw and how everything sort of played out. And it's just enough of a twist for it to be not crazy, but it's a very satisfactory ending, and you're like, oh, that was pretty cool. So I don't know why this didn't get the attention it did at the time, but I thought it was just quite clever, very enjoyable. A lot rests on Nicole Kidman's performance, who did an amazing job. I thought it was actually one of the better, when I look at all the movies of 2018, I would definitely put it in my short list of the better films of 2018. So I would definitely say give this movie a chance if you haven't seen it. Most of you probably haven't. I would seek it out. Overall, I would give Destroyer a B+. I love you. I appreciate you. Thanks for watching my movie review. As always, I'm Eric Hoernke, rhymes with turnkey, and this has been a production of Zero Value.